So now that we've kind of gone over some of the general mechanics using text while also clipping, I thought it was necessary to actually hop in here and do some audio work. I'm pretty new to the YouTube community and actually pretty new to Path of Exile and Gear Grinding Games, but I'll do my best here to give a general overview of how the mechanics of this build operate. So as described before, the build operates on a procking loop that, in combination with mind over matter, pretty much gives us infinite potential to get through maps. Clearing bosses is achieved through trample toes, and yeah, this build, as you can tell, is pretty expensive. I have spent 1,000 hours on this build, and it might actually be a contender for builds using a ridiculous amount of unique items. Uh, Everything you see here, aside from our second ring there, the Dream Fragments, is pretty much mandatory with this build. The build struggles quite a bit with attributes, so one of the unique things we end up doing is taking a lot of attributes. This ring also happens to have some corrective to all elemental resistances, as we're using so many unique items that we absolutely need that. In combination with the Ingenuity Utility Belt, we're getting more attributes and more elemental resistances, which, just all part of the game here. We're just trying to survive, not get one shot. But thing is, as long as something's not taking our full health pool, we're pretty much okay. And speaking of health pool, this build is currently resting at around 3,700 mana and 1,600 life. We're rounding up for simplicity. But if we go ahead and we take a look at our stats currently, I'm overcapped on everything except for chaos damage. Honestly, with our tree, we could be taking chaos inoculation, but I like having that little extra hit pool, and it kind of keeps us from dying. But we're not at the tree just yet. Let's go over our general mechanic here. So this build operates on a loop that uses the Earthbound Voltaic Staff. The Earthbound Voltaic Staff, as I wrote earlier, operates on triggering Spark when you're killing a shocked enemy. It's a conditional, unfortunately. So as long as the enemy is shocked, it's going to trigger a couple sparks, and that'll continue to go around and crit more, which, when things are critted, we get this greater lightning bolt. So the loop kind of goes cast ball lightning, get a bunch of crits, apply a bunch of shock, which will cast down this Choir of the Storm greater lightning bolt. When it kills that enemy, we're getting these sparks that trigger. And actually, these trigger effects for kill effects, being the Voltaic Staff, occur twice. So we're actually getting 2 procs of spark, and then you can go ahead and multiply that by 2 again, as with this spark, we're getting fork, and then we also have some other skills on here just to try and make it spread. Not doing the best job. This is my first video. But that's the general concept. we get two procs, and then with fork we're getting basically 4 procs of spark. And this spreads around, critting, restarting this loop. We don't have to cast ball lightning except just to initiate this loop, and that's just to get this greater lightning bolt to come casting down. Aside from that, our boss kills operating on a second weapon set basis. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have to be running these boots, although I do happen to run these as it just boosts my overall hit pool. So if I go ahead and I pop these off, our base right now, this is our map clearing. We have roughly 5,000 hit points, and we pulled these off. We put on Trample Toe, and now we have 2861. Well, when you're bossing, you're going to be one-shotting anyway, so that's not really relevant for this build. It's just to get that crazy mechanic that Trample Toe provides, which is also, again, amplified by Killjoy Linen Wraps. You might notice we're wearing an Alpha's Howl. This is just to fix our spirit issues with Blink. Initially with this build, you won't be running Blink at all, because you're forced to use Choir of the Storm, you're forced to use Voltaic Staff, you're forced to use Killjoy, you're forced to use Ingenuity, you're forced to use Trample Toe. There's not a whole lot of flexibility here. In fact, even on the second weapon set, you kind of have to be careful at what you do with your wand and what you do with your scepter here. We're going for gain damage. With Trample Toe, for whatever reason, if you're not using this Sacred Flame Shrine Scepter and getting that extra 56% damage, you won't actually be one-shotting. I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why, but I think it's just improving our base damage that Trample Toe's being applied to. And then we also have gain damage on our wand, some critical hit chance, +5 to all lightning skills. That's pretty good wand right there. It's about 90 div maybe. I don't know about the late league pricing anymore. But anyways, the point is you need a pretty decent wand in this specific unique scepter, combined with Trample Toe and Killjoy to get that one-shot mechanic. In fact, there's some actually skill gems that are required as well. But let's get into the skills here. So I haven't made a MOBALYTICS just yet, but that will be coming. Right now, you're looking at our spark coming from Voltaic Staff. So we're just trying to get this thing to spread, crit, and shock as frequently as possible. That has pretty much been achieved. But we use these specific skill gems. We use acceleration. That's going to let it spread as far as possible. And persistence will also contribute to spreading that. Alongside persistence and acceleration, we're using fork. It's basically we don't care about the damage, although the damage is pretty good on this skill. So basically, we're getting a multiplier of 2 on the number of projectiles per proc, combined with a multiplier of 2 with Killjoy. We also have ambush, which is 100% more critical chance against enemies that are on full life. Basically, your greater lightning bolt's doing enough DPS out there to one-shot most of the enemies. This greater lightning bolt is actually doing, it says 60,000 right here, although I do have a allocated diamond here that basically gets us Crashing Wave, which is 36% increased damage if you've dealt a critical hit in past 8 seconds. There's also some critical hit nodes here that change the damage, basically if we've crit. I'm not going to jump into that just yet here. But basic idea here, spreading it, getting crit and shock. Our greater lightning bolt is pretty much running on the same thing as the Blood Mage spark build, and it's just, higher damage for area. We have considered casting, so less cast speed, not really relevant with procking anyway, and 40% more damage. We're getting Spell Echo, which casts it twice. We also have cheaper greater lightning bolts through inspiration. Good thing to note here is our critical hit chance is 40.8%. No, it cannot self-proc itself, but with the use of our Temporalis here, we're getting one cast every 0.1 seconds, so we get 10 in a second. Cast time isn't exactly relevant here since it's being procced. So we get 10 of these a second. When I'm in map, it's about 98,000 damage. So that's pretty much just going delete, delete, delete on enemies, and kind of lets you just keep passing by mobs knowing they're going to die full well. Um, Going to ball lightning, we're using a high level ball lightning. Ball lightning needs to be high level here, or you're not going to be applying basically shock very well. We're going for wild shards, not really needed. It's just cast 8 in a circle occasionally, every 5 casts, and you have the chance to do better than that, but it's 1 out of 5 every time you go to cast it. You have Arcane Surge, which is basically just cast speed, more mana regen. Not even needed. It's just on there because I had a 5th slot. Same thing with this. You actually need these 3. You need Scatter Shot, which is 20% less damage but fires 2 additional projectiles. And then you do Conduction as well. And Conduction is basically higher chance to shock. So the enemies are shocked right away, and then Greater Lightning Bolt comes down, smashes them, and then procs pretty much guarantees the spark gets procced from Voltaic Staff. We have Unleash here. Unleash, if you didn't know, just double casts. You're charging up Ball Lightning, so 0, 1, 2. And that's how you do it. That's basically getting us more barbed wire out there. Moving on, I do have Lightning Warp on here. This was before I had Temporalis, though. You're basically using this for mobility when you don't have Temporalis. In fact, your damage is actually significantly higher for your Greater Lightning Bolt and your Spark, but Voltaic Staff is this has been fixed. Very good. All right. So, anyways, you're just using that for mobility initially with this build, although you can't really play this build till you're level 90. There's just too many attribute requirements, hence the ad stacking ring. Moving on to Frostwall, we have a really low level Frostwall. This is just to lower the health on it. That's so the Greater Lightning Bolt can be guaranteed to destroy it. You just need 3 things on it. This is the standard Trample Toe setup. You're looking for Fortress, you're looking for Icicle, you're looking for Spell Cascade. So beginning with Fortress, you're just getting 50% less damage with hits, and you're casting in a circle. So that's what you're doing with that. Ice crystals created by supported skills have 50% life, 50% less life. So just again guaranteeing that it gets one shot by the first proc a Greater Lightning Bolt, and the second one applies the damage. That's why you have 2 of them. So Trample Toe gets applied to the second one, and this is multiplicative damage coming from Trample Toe. I can't really explain it that well. You might want to reference another video for that. That could be an entire video on its own. But going to Spell Cascade, you're casting 2 of them. So instead of 1 circle, you get 2 circles. And we'll get rid of that. Originally, also, before I had the cooldowns, I did use Spark, a really low level Spark, as we get all our mana on kill, a percentage on kill. I think it's about 8% mana on kill to keep this loop going, and while also refilling our mana pool in excess to gain insane survivability. But basically, you're using Brutality on this initially. That makes it so you do 0 elemental damage, which means you can only crit this wall. So if I press Q, I'm just trying to crit, right? You might have to cast that a few times. It's a bit jank. If you're lucky, though, you're just insta, right there. We do use Archmage for just scaling our damage per mana. That's pretty common. And then we have Blink. This is pretty much something you can only get, again, if you have Alpha's Howl. As Archmage is pretty expensive, and if I pop off my Alpha's Howl, you shouldn't be able to use it, basically. So the main issue with this build that I came across was getting attributes. We were using the Alpha's Howl Armored Cap. You need 70 Dexterity, 47 Int for that. If you go over to Trample Toe, you need 42 Strength. So these Dex and Strength requirements are really hammering you. Alongside having this many skills, you have all these support gems that require X amount of Dex, X amount of Strength, and you're just trying to make up for that. That's where this Ingenuity and this breach ring come into play. I'd go for lightning damage, get an all at stat, get all res, maybe an additional attribute if you're lucky. That'll pretty much fix your issue in combination with ingenuity. But that's pretty much what's mandatory. Everything here that's mandatory would be Voltaic Staff, Alpha's Howl, Acquire the Storm, Trample Toe, Ingenuity, Killjoy. That's the core mechanics of the build. You can't swap amulets. You can't, you can't really get rid of Killjoy. Maybe you could, but it wouldn't be worth the trade-off. Um, and yeah, there's just a whole lot of uniques here. I do have a Maelstrom. You can't even use this Life Flask. You just pop that off. Um, I choose to use Cannot Be Stunned since the Dream Fragment Sapphire Ring prevents me from being frozen. This is kind of also very extra, but this is a very late stage build. As I mean, it is complete. There's not a single thing I could do to make it better. Maybe a better Temporalis. This one's not very good. But the point is, this build is pretty good. You're able to boss, you're able to map extremely well. I will be putting a MOBALYTICS out within the week here to kind of give more of an overview of the exact skills and why. But if we're going to go over it relatively quickly here, I wouldn't recommend screenshotting and trying to copy from this. There's two weapon sets, and we're utilizing pretty much all the weapon set points here. And this is very well thought out, I'd say. Not to pat myself in the back too much, but it was a build that took around a month and a half to get together here into this shape. You kind of start off just grabbing some standard lightning damage, increased chance to shock, but actually we should probably start with the Ascendancy. The Ascendancy is basically we're going straight into maximum mana, Arcane Surge. We're grabbing some more mana. We're grabbing increased chance of shock. Really, we just want this node. All damage from hits contributes to shock chance. And then we just happen to pick up some 12% increased critical hit chance for spells. That shock chance is actually critical as it's allowed me to take off nodes from shock. I had these allocated for a while. You don't need them. You don't really need the spec into shock that much at all. We do need mind over matter. All damage is taken from mana before life, 50% less mana recovery rate. Mana recovery rate with this build does not matter. You're basically, when you're bossing, you're using really cheap skills, and when you're mapping, you're getting all your mana back from these, if I could find one, these jewels here. It's just recover 2% mana on kill. And to speak towards these jewels here, we benefit from getting triggered spell damage increases as well as spell damage. We can do a double up on that. You want to get critical hit chance for spells, critical bonus damage for spells, or critical bonus. But the main thing is recover 2% mana on kill. You need that as a guaranteed need that, or you're going to be procking and then you're going to destroy all your mana, which is also all your health. So you want to kind of get, I think it's 8%, and the higher you get, the better survivability. But you do get these jewels for pretty cheap at the moment. Not many people are doing triggered spell builds anymore, so you're gonna be paying way less. You can get these jewels for 4 div, 3 div. These ones I'm using are actually some of the best on the market. In fact, I've even taken recover 1% life on kill with that one, as the killjoys prevent you from using your life flask. So you kind of benefit by having that on one stat for these. Unfortunately, it appears that this 20% increased maximum energy shield doesn't even apply. But this is kind of I guess this is one of the last jewels I should be replacing here. We are using some diamonds here and there. This diamond over here is Against the Darkness Timeless Diamond. These are not cheap. Would not recommend picking this build up just because of the extreme costs I'm showing you now. You can try to replicate it with a cheaper way. I ran it before without diamonds, ran it before without Temporalis, ran it before without Dream Fragments, ran it with a 70% Ingenuity build. It's all possible. But the bare minimum, you need to be level 90 for these attribute requirements with your skills. And it's not just your armor, it's your skills that are really killing you. Your wand will be killing you on stats. You're fighting for strength and dex when you need an insane amount of int for wand and the staff. But if we were just going to kind of quickly go over the tree again, you can see we're using second weapon set. This is just kind of making up energy shield we lose just in case the boss does actually get a move off. You want to have a good chance to survive it. This is the only part of this tree I'd say you could swap. The rest of the tree here is pretty much mandatory. We're grabbing in some really good damage nodes here. Some more damage basically through elemental penetration. We're striving to grab as many jewels as possible. Grabbing lightning damage, grabbing more energy shield, grabbing more critical hit chance. We're grabbing skill effect duration. I believe that's actually supposed to be the opposite. I'm not sure why we have increased. So you could probably flip this over to reduced. We are also grabbing. Oh no, we're grabbing increased because the spark from Voltaic staff. We want that to get as far away from us as possible and keep procking. That's how we achieve like cross map clear. We also go for projectile speed, same reason, just spreading the spark as far as possible. You need Eldritch Battery. Eldritch Battery lets you get more, turns your energy shield into mana pool. Pretty important for the survivability aspect of the build. You can't go without it. Then we're just grabbing some crit. We're grabbing more crit. And I got these 3 nodes pretty recently. They also happen to be useful because we have this time lost diamond, getting more mana, more intelligence, fighting our requirements. And it's basically just reduce cost of skills and increase intelligence, more mana. Over here, here's why we can do this. These are all triggered skills we're using. Every single thing we're using to kill, with the exception of ball lightning, is a triggered skill. So we get these crazy big bonuses on damage from those, as well as getting even more damage from this tree here. So you can see it's basically, if you were just going to summarize the build, a proc loop that uses 2 items. Maybe you consider the 3rd item being Killjoy. You got Choir of Storm, you have Earthbound Voltaic Staff, and then you throw in the idea of getting shock and doing crit frequently. You're just trying to shock and crit, and that's it. You cast once, and then you're trying to keep up with your sparks so they don't go off too far off screen, which is why I picked up Temporalis, was just to see how far can this proc chain spread. I've been able to pretty much one cast maps, and anyways, this video is getting quite long. You may as well just check out the MOBALYTICS, which I will be putting in the description of this video eventually. Like, comment, and share this video if you found it to be pretty interesting. Gotta say, it's probably the only build using Voltaic Staff that's semi-viable. There was one more video out there I did use as a reference, so shout out to that guy, but he did have the same issue I had initially when creating this build, which was not being able to boss kill. I saw his video, and then I saw this Spark Blood Mage video using Trample Toe, and I just thought, hey, let's slap them together. And so that's kind of what I've done here. And yeah, like I said, just like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the build in the description, or if you want to see a budget version of it in a video, I'd be happy to make that video. But anyways, have a good day.